The scream that tore from Adanna's throat shattered the peaceful afternoon silence of the Okafor mansion compound. Help, somebody help. She was already running, bare feet slapping against hot concrete, her cleaning bucket abandoned, water sloshing everywhere, running toward the massive swimming pool where 6-year-old Chukwuemeka Okafor floated face down in the crystalline water. No time to think. No time to call for help that wouldn't arrive in time. No time to remember she was just the housemaid, the orphan girl who wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the pool area when the family was away. Adanna hit the water in her housemaid uniform, the cheap fabric immediately weighing her down. She wasn't a strong swimmer, had only learned basic strokes in the dirty river near the orphanage where she'd grown up. But she pushed through the water with desperate strokes, reaching the small floating body in seconds that felt like hours. Chukwuemeka, Emeka! She grabbed him, turning him over. His lips were blue, his eyes were closed. He wasn't breathing. Oh God, he wasn't breathing. She dragged him to the pool edge, her arms screaming with effort, her lungs burning. She heaved his small body onto the concrete and climbed out after him, her hands shaking so badly she could barely function. Think, Adanna, think. What did that Red Cross poster in the orphanage say? CPR. She needed to do CPR. She tilted his head back, checked his mouth for obstructions, pinched his nose, and breathed into his small mouth. Once, twice. Then chest compressions. She placed her hands on his small chest and pressed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on, Emeka. Come on, baby. Breathe. Please breathe. 30 compressions. 2 breaths. 30 compressions. 2 breaths. Water suddenly gushed from the child's mouth. He coughed, sputtered, and his eyes flew open, wild with panic. It's okay, you're safe. Adanna turned him on his side as he vomited more water, her hand supporting his head, tears streaming down her face. You're okay now. I've got you. Chukwuemeka began crying, that beautiful, wonderful sound of a living, breathing child. Adanna pulled him into her arms, holding him against her soaked uniform, rocking him as he sobbed. I fell in, he choked out between sobs. I was trying to get my toy boat and I fell in and I couldn't get out and… SHH, it's okay now, you're safe. I've got you. She had no idea how long they sat there on the pool deck, both soaking wet, both trembling. Could have been seconds, could have been minutes. Time had stopped making sense the moment she'd seen him floating. Then she heard the screaming. What have you done to him, my son? Adanna's head snapped up. Mrs. Okafor, Zainab Okafor, the lady of the house, was running across the compound, her expensive heels clicking frantically on the walkway. Behind her came several house staff members and the security guards. Ma, he fell in the pool. I pulled him out, I did CPR. Get away from him! Mrs. Okafor reached them and literally ripped Chukwuemeka from Adanna's arms. The child cried out in protest, reaching back for Adanna, but his mother clutched him to her chest. Don't touch my son, don't you dare touch him. Ma, I saved him. He was drowning. Liar! Mrs. Okafor's face was twisted with rage, and something else was that fear. My son knows how to swim. He would never drown. You pushed him in. You tried to kill him. The words hit Adanna like physical blows. What? No, Ma, I would never. I know what you are. Mrs. Okafor backed away, still holding Chukwuemeka, who was crying and confused. You orphans are all the same, thieves and liars. You've been in my house for 6 months, watching, waiting, planning. You tried to kill my son so you could. She seemed to be looking around frantically, and then her eyes landed on the pool house door, which stood slightly ajar. My jewelry, she suddenly screamed. My jewelry box, I left it in the pool house this morning. Guards, check the pool house. This girl has stolen from me. What? No, I didn't. I've never been in the pool house. Ma, please. But the security guards were already moving. One grabbed Adanna's arms, yanking them behind her back roughly. She cried out in pain. Ma, please listen. Emeka was drowning. I just saved him. I didn't take anything. The head of security, Mr. Boniface, emerged from the pool house holding an ornate jewelry box. Madam, the box is here, but it's open. Several pieces are missing. You see, Mrs. Okafor's voice was triumphant and vicious. You see, she came to steal from me, my son caught her. She pushed him in the pool to kill him so there would be no witness. This is attempted murder and theft. No, Adanna struggled against the guard's grip. I didn't go near the pool house. I was cleaning the main house. I only came here because I heard splashing and came to check. Please, you have to believe me. Chukwuemeka was sobbing harder now. Mama, no. Dana saved me. Dana pulled me out. I couldn't breathe in Dana. Hush, baby. You're confused because you nearly died. This wicked girl hurt you and now she's going to pay. Mrs. Okafor turned to the guards. Call the police. Now, I want her arrested immediately. Madam, perhaps we should wait for Oga, Mr. Boniface said carefully. Let him hear. My husband is in Abuja on business. By the time he returns, this criminal could be gone. Call the police now or you're all fired. The other house staff had gathered. The cook, the gardener, the other maids. They all watched with wide eyes as Adanna was forced to her knees on the concrete, still soaking wet, still shaking from the adrenaline of saving a child's life. Please, Adanna begged, looking around at the familiar faces. Please, you all know me. I would never hurt Emeka. I love him. He's like a little brother to me. Please tell her. Tell her I would never. But they all looked away. Nobody spoke up. Nobody defended her. Because she was nobody, just an orphan housemaid who'd come from nothing, and Mrs. Okafor was the powerful wife of a billionaire. Who would believe a poor girl over a rich woman? I didn't take anything, Adanna whispered, her voice breaking. I just saved his life. That's all I did. I just saved his life. You tried to kill my son. Mrs. Okafor's voice was shrill now. And you stole from me. You're going to prison. You're going to rot there. Within 20 minutes, 2 police officers arrived. They listened to Mrs. Okafor's dramatic retelling, how she'd arrived home to find her son drowning because this housemaid had pushed him in, how the girl had clearly been attempting to steal from the pool house when the child caught her, how this was attempted murder and theft. Is this true? One officer asked Adanna. No, sir. I saved him. He was already drowning when I found him. I did CPR. I brought him back. I didn't take anything. I didn't even go in the pool house. She's lying, Mrs. Okafor shrieked. Look at her. Soaking wet. She was in that pool with my son. She tried to drown him. I'm wet because I jumped in to save him. Adanna's voice rose with desperation. Please, check his lungs. Check for water. A doctor can prove he was drowning. And check the pool house. My fingerprints won't be there because I never went inside. Oh, you're clever, Mrs. Okafor sneered. Wearing gloves, I'm sure. You planned this. You've been planning this for months. The police officers looked at each other. One shrugged. In their experience, rich people's accusations usually stuck. Poor people's defenses rarely did. You'll need to come with us, the first officer said to Adanna. No, please. I didn't do anything wrong. I saved him. Ask Emeka, he'll tell you. My son is traumatized. Mrs. Okafor pulled Chukwuemeka closer, even though the boy was reaching toward Adanna, crying. He doesn't know what he's saying. This girl needs to be locked up before she hurts someone else. They handcuffed Adanna right there by the pool where she just saved a child's life. She didn't resist. What was the point? She had no money for a lawyer, no family to call, no one who would believe an orphan over a billionaire's wife. As they led her away, she looked back one last time. Chukwuemeka was screaming now, fighting his mother's grip, reaching for her. Dana, no, Mama, no. SHE saved me. SHE saved me. But his cries didn't matter. The truth didn't matter. All that mattered was that she was poor and powerless, and Mrs. Okafor was rich and vengeful. And now Adanna was going to pay for the crime of saving a child's life. Welcome to Stories by Ajibs. Thank you for joining us for this powerful story of injustice, truth, and ultimate justice. Before we continue, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. USA, UK, Jamaica, Nigeria. We love our global family. Now let's see what happens when an innocent girl is punished for heroism. Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do? What would you do in Adanna's situation? Drop your thoughts. Like, subscribe to Stories by Ajibs and turn on notifications. This story is just beginning. The police station in Lekki smelled of stale sweat, old paper, and despair. Adanna sat on a wooden bench in the holding area, still in her wet housemaid uniform, her hands trembling in her lap. The handcuffs had left red marks on her wrists that throbbed with each heartbeat. Around her, other detainees stared. A woman arrested for fighting in the market, 2 young men caught with stolen phones, an elderly man who kept muttering to himself. They all looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and pity. The girl who'd tried to kill a rich man's son. That's what the officers were saying. "You should have asked for more money before you tried it," one of the phone thieves said, laughing. "If you're going to go after a billionaire, make it worth the prison time." "I didn't do anything," Adanna whispered, but no one was listening. The processing had been humiliating. Her pockets searched, her few belongings confiscated, a small wooden cross on a string that the orphanage matron had given her, and the 20 naira note she'd been saving to buy credit for the communal phone to call her friend Ngozi. They'd taken her fingerprints, photographed her like a criminal, and thrown her in here with actual criminals. Adanna Obi, a female officer, stood at the door. "Come." Adanna stood on shaking legs and followed the officer into a small interrogation room. 2 officers sat behind a metal table, the same ones who'd arrested her, plus a senior officer whose name Tag read Inspector Okoro. "Sit down," Inspector Okoro said, not unkindly. He was older, maybe in his 50s, with gray at his temples and tired eyes that had seen too much. Adanna sat. "Tell me what happened today," he said. "Your version." She took a deep breath and told him everything. How she'd been cleaning the main house, how she'd heard splashing and then silence, wrong kind of silence, how she'd run to the pool and found Chukwuemeka floating face down, how she'd jumped in despite being a weak swimmer, pulled him out, performed CPR until he breathed again. "I saved him," she finished, her voice cracking. "I brought him back to life, and she, Mrs. Okafor, she accused me of trying to kill him, of stealing jewelry I never touched." "Why would she do that?" Inspector Okoro asked, watching her face carefully. "I don't know, sir. Maybe because I'm just a housemaid, an orphan, nobody important. Maybe she needs someone to blame because her son nearly died and she wasn't there to save him." One of the other officers snorted. "So you're saying a billionaire's wife is lying because she's embarrassed?" "I'm saying I saved that boy's life, and I'm being punished for it." Inspector Okoro was silent for a long moment, studying her. "The boy, Chukwuemeka, he was crying for you when we were leaving, calling your name, saying you saved him." Hope flared in Adanna's chest. "Yes, sir, because I did. He knows the truth. If you just let him tell you what happened." "The mother says he's traumatized and confused. That children who nearly drown often have confused memories." The inspector sighed. "The problem, Miss Adanna, is that it's your word against hers, and she's the wife of Chief Okafor, one of the most powerful men in Lagos. She says you tried to kill her son and steal her jewelry. You say you saved him. Who do you think people will believe?" The hope died as quickly as it had come. "Not me." "Not you," he agreed quietly. "But I'll tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to request that the boy be examined by a doctor. If he truly was drowning, there will be evidence, water in his lungs, signs of oxygen deprivation. And I'm going to have our forensics team check that pool house for your fingerprints. If you never went inside like you claim, they won't be there." "Thank you, sir." Adanna's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for believing me enough to check." "I didn't say I believe you," Inspector Okoro said, but his voice was gentle. "I said I'll check. There's a difference. Now go back to holding. This will take time." Back in the holding area, Adanna curled up on the bench and finally let herself cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs. She'd learned in the orphanage that showing too much emotion made you a target. Just quiet tears that slid down her face and dripped onto her still damp uniform. She thought about Chukwuemeka, hoping he was okay. Hoping the water in his lungs hadn't damaged anything. Hoping he wasn't too traumatized by nearly dying and then watching the person who saved him get arrested. She thought about the other staff at the Okafor mansion. Not one of them had spoken up for her. Not Cook, who she helped in the kitchen every morning. Not Moses the gardener, who she brought water to when he worked in the hot sun. Not even Peace, the other housemaid, who Adanna had covered for when Peace needed time off to see her sick mother. They'd all just watched her get arrested. Because that's what you did when you were poor and powerless. You protected yourself first. Speaking up for her would have meant risking their own jobs, their own survival. She couldn't even be angry with them. She understood. Hours passed. The holding area grew darker as evening fell. Someone brought a tray of watery soup and hard bread. Adanna couldn't eat. Her stomach was tied in knots. "First time?" the market woman asked her, not unkindly. "Yes, Ma." "It shows. You'll toughen up, we all do." But Adanna didn't want to toughen up. She didn't want to become the kind of person who accepted that innocent people got arrested while guilty people walked free. She didn't want this to be normal. Around 8 p.m., Inspector Okoro appeared again. "Adanna Obi, come." Her heart jumped. Had the test results come back already? She followed him back to the interrogation room, where a different scene awaited her. Mrs. Okafor sat in one of the chairs, dressed in expensive evening wear as if she'd been interrupted during a social engagement. Beside her stood a tall man in an expensive suit, a lawyer, clearly. "This is the girl who tried to murder my client's son and steal from her home," the lawyer said smoothly. "We want to make sure she's charged with the full extent of the law: attempted murder, theft, criminal trespass." "The investigation is ongoing," Inspector Okoro interrupted. "I've ordered medical examination of the child and forensic analysis of the scene." "Investigation?" Mrs. Okafor's voice was sharp. "What investigation? I told you what happened. She tried to kill my son." "And she says she saved your son. The truth will be determined by evidence, not by who has more money or power." The lawyer bristled. "Inspector, do you know who you're talking to? Chief Okafor is personal friends with the Commissioner of Police. One phone call." "One phone call won't change the evidence," Inspector Okoro said calmly. "If this girl is guilty, the evidence will prove it. If she's innocent, the evidence will prove that too. That's how justice works." "Justice?" Mrs. Okafor laughed bitterly. "She's an orphan housemaid, a nobody, and you're treating her word as equal to mine." "In this station, yes." Inspector Okoro looked at Adanna. "Go back to holding. The doctor's report should arrive by morning." As Adanna left, she heard Mrs. Okafor's furious voice. "This is unacceptable. I want her charged tonight. I want." The door closed, cutting off the rest. Back in holding, the night stretched endlessly. Adanna lay on the hard bench, staring at the ceiling, praying that the evidence would speak for her since no person would. She thought about Chukwuemeka's small body floating face down in that pool, the terror of thinking she might not reach him in time, the desperate compressions on his small chest, the moment his eyes had opened and he'd started breathing again. She'd saved his life. Whatever happened next, whatever lies were told about her, that truth remained. She'd saved that boy's life, and she'd do it again, even knowing it would end with her here. Because that's what you did when you saw someone drowning. You jumped in, even if the water pulled you under too. Even if saving them destroyed you. Morning came slowly to the police station. Adanna hadn't slept. How could she, on a hard wooden bench with the sounds of other detainees snoring, crying, or muttering through the night? Her uniform had finally dried, leaving salt water stains and wrinkles. Her hair was a mess, her eyes burning with exhaustion and unshed tears. Around 7 a.m., Inspector Okoro appeared at the holding area door with a folder in his hands and an unreadable expression on his face. "Adanna Obi, come with me." Her heart hammered as she followed him back to the interrogation room. This time, a young woman in a white coat sat at the table, a doctor, based on her appearance. "Sit down, Miss Adanna," Inspector Okoro said. "This is Dr. Chinwe from Lagos State Teaching Hospital. She examined the Okafor boy last night. Doctor, please present your findings." Dr. Chinwe opened her own folder. "The child, Chukwuemeka Okafor, age 6, was brought to the emergency room last night by his mother. I performed a thorough examination as requested by the police." She looked up at Adanna with kind eyes. That boy was absolutely drowning. His lungs showed clear signs of water aspiration. He had petechial hemorrhaging in his eyes consistent with oxygen deprivation. His core temperature was slightly hypothermic. All signs point to near drowning that was interrupted by successful CPR intervention. Adanna felt tears spring to her eyes. So I was telling the truth. According to the medical evidence, yes. Someone performed CPR on that child and saved his life. Without that intervention, he would have died. Dr. Chinwe paused. I also examined the boy's psychological state. He was very clear and consistent about what happened. He said he was trying to reach his toy boat, fell in, couldn't get out because the pool sides were too slippery, and went under. He said Dana jumped in and pulled him out. He demonstrated the chest compressions you performed. His memory wasn't confused at all. His mother said he was traumatized and confused, Inspector Okoro noted. His mother was wrong, or lying. Dr. Chinwe's voice was firm. That child knows exactly what happened, and he's traumatized, yes, but not by the drowning. He's traumatized because the person who saved him was arrested. He cried for you repeatedly during the examination. Asked me if you were okay, if you were in trouble because of him. Adanna put her face in her hands and sobbed. Relief, exhaustion, grief for that small boy's suffering, it all poured out at once. There's more, Inspector Okoro said. He pulled out photographs from his folder. Forensics processed the pool house last night. These are the fingerprint results. He spread the photos across the table. The jewelry box had only 2 sets of prints, Mrs. Okafor's and one other set we haven't identified yet. Not yours. The pool house door handle, the shelves, the furniture, none of your fingerprints anywhere. You were telling the truth. You never went inside that pool house. Then who took the jewelry? Adanna asked, wiping her eyes. That, Inspector Okoro said grimly, is what I intend to find out. We're bringing in all the household staff for fingerprinting today. Whoever stole those items, it wasn't you. A different officer knocked and entered, handing Inspector Okoro another folder. Sir, the security footage you requested from the Okafor mansion. Adanna's head snapped up. There's video. The mansion has cameras everywhere. Mrs. Okafor initially refused to provide the footage, which I found. Interesting. But Chief Okafor returned from Abuja this morning. When I called him directly and explained the situation, he was very cooperative. Inspector Okoro opened his laptop and turned it so Adanna could see the screen. This is from the pool area camera yesterday afternoon. The video played. Adanna saw herself in the garden area near the house, far from the pool, hanging laundry on the line. The timestamp showed 2:47 p.m. Then, at 3:12 p.m., the camera caught little Chukwuemeka running toward the pool alone, holding his toy boat. Where was his mother? Adanna asked. Excellent question. Inspector Okoro fast-forwarded. At 3:15 p.m., Chukwuemeka was visible at the pool's edge, reaching for his boat which had floated to the middle. At 3:16 p.m., he leaned too far and fell in. The splash was visible even on the grainy footage. At 3:17 p.m., Adanna appeared, running at full speed from the direction of the main house. Without hesitation, she jumped into the pool. I heard the splash, Adanna said quietly. I was inside cleaning the sitting room. I heard it and something felt wrong, so I ran. The footage showed her pulling the boy's limp body to the edge, dragging him out, performing CPR. The timestamp showed 2 full minutes of compressions and rescue breaths before Chukwuemeka's body jerked and water gushed from his mouth. You saved his life, Dr. Chinwe said softly. That's textbook CPR. Where did you learn that? The orphanage. They taught us basic first aid. They said orphans need to know how to save ourselves since no one else will. Adanna's voice was bitter now. I just never thought I'd need to save someone else and get arrested for it. Inspector Okoro fast-forwarded again. At 3:34 p.m., a woman appeared on camera, not Mrs. Okafor, but another person in expensive clothes. She went into the pool house, emerged 2 minutes later with something in her handbag, and hurried away. Who is that? Adanna leaned forward. That, Inspector Okoro said, is Mrs. Okafor's younger sister, Kemi. She's been staying at the mansion for the past week. At 3:41 p.m., Mrs. Okafor herself appeared on camera, walking casually from the main house toward the pool. She was on her phone, laughing, not hurrying. Then she saw Adanna sitting by the pool, soaking wet, holding Chukwuemeka. Her expression changed instantly, shock, then something calculating, then rage. The video captured her running forward, screaming. No audio, but her fury was evident. It captured her ripping the child from Adanna's arms. Captured her looking around wildly, her eyes landing on the pool house, her expression shifting to something almost triumphant as she started making accusations. She knew, Adanna whispered. She saw I'd saved him, but she accused me anyway. Why? I have a theory, Inspector Okoro said. But first, let me show you one more thing. He pulled up another video file, this one from the main house interior. The timestamp showed 2:30 p.m. Mrs. Okafor was visible in her bedroom, selecting jewelry from a box, putting pieces in a small bag. She took her own jewelry to the pool house, Adanna said slowly. Why would she do that? Watch. At 2:35 p.m., Mrs. Okafor carried the jewelry box to the pool house. At 2:38 p.m., she returned to the main house. At 3:34 p.m., her sister Kemi went to the pool house and emerged with items in her handbag, the theft caught on camera. Mrs. Okafor left valuable jewelry unsecured in the pool house, Inspector Okoro said. Her sister, who has a history of theft according to our background check, saw an opportunity and took some pieces. Mrs. Okafor probably didn't even realize they were missing until after she'd already accused you. But by then, the accusation was made, and she couldn't back down without admitting she'd been negligent in both supervising her son and securing her jewelry. So she let me take the blame, Adanna said, and she felt something cold settle in her chest. Not just hurt anymore, anger. She knew I'd saved her son. She saw the evidence with her own eyes, but she needed someone to blame for her own failures, and I was convenient. Yes, Inspector Okoro said simply. And if I hadn't insisted on investigating, if I'd simply taken her word as truth because she's rich and powerful, you'd be going to prison for crimes you didn't commit. He stood. Adanna Obi, you are free to go. All charges are dropped. I will be having a very different conversation with Mrs. Okafor about filing false police reports and criminal accusation. And her sister, the one who actually stole the jewelry. Also being picked up as we speak. He paused. I'm sorry this happened to you. The system failed you. I failed you by not investigating thoroughly from the start. You're the only one who investigated at all, Adanna said quietly. Thank you, Inspector. Dr. Chinwe stood as well. I need to return to the hospital, but Adanna, you have a gift for emergency response. If you ever want proper medical training, I can help. We need people with your instincts and your courage. As they prepared to process her release, another officer entered. Sir, Chief Okafor is here. He's asking to speak with the girl with Miss Adanna. Adanna's stomach clenched. The billionaire himself, the father of the boy she'd saved. The husband of the woman who'd falsely accused her. Do you want to see him? Inspector Okoro asked gently. Adanna thought about it. She could refuse. She could walk out of this police station and never look back, never see any of the Okafors again. But she'd spent the night in a cell for a crime she didn't commit. She'd been humiliated, handcuffed, treated like a criminal. She deserved to look Chief Okafor in the eye. Yes, she said, I'll see him. What will Chief Okafor say? Will he apologize or defend his wife? Comment your predictions. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the next chapter. Chief Emmanuel Okafor was not what Adanna expected. She'd seen him before, of course. Brief glimpses when he came home late from business, distant sightings when he left early in the morning. But she'd never been close enough to really see him. Now, in the police station's small meeting room, she saw him clearly. He was a tall man in his late 40s, wearing an expensive suit that probably cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. But his face was haggard, his eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept. He stood when she entered, and to her shock, his eyes filled with tears. Miss Adanna, he said, his voice hoarse. I don't know how to begin. I don't know what words could possibly. He stopped, swallowed hard. You saved my son's life, and my wife had you arrested. There are no words for how sorry I am. Adanna stood frozen, unsure how to respond. She'd expected anger, maybe defense of his wife, perhaps a cold dismissal. Not this. Not tears from a billionaire. Please sit down, he gestured to the chairs. They both sat, Inspector Okoro standing quietly by the door. I only just returned from Abuja this morning. When I arrived home, my son ran to me crying, saying Dana was taken away by police. That Dana saved him and Mama said she hurt him. I didn't understand at first. Zainab, my wife, she told me you tried to drown Emeka and steal from us. I didn't, sir, Adanna said quietly. I would never hurt him. I love that little boy. I know, his voice broke. I watched the security footage. I saw you run to the pool when you heard him fall. I saw you jump in without hesitation, even though you're not a strong swimmer. I saw you breathe life back into my son's body. Tears spilled down his face now, and he didn't bother wiping them. I saw the exact moment my wife arrived and saw what happened, and I saw her choose to destroy you rather than thank you. Why did she do it? Adanna needed to understand. She saw I saved him. She knew. Why would she still accuse me? Chief Okafor was silent for a long moment. Because Emeka almost died on her watch. She was supposed to be supervising him, but she was on the phone with her friends planning her next party. She told him to play in his room, but he went to the pool instead. If he'd died, people would have asked where she was, why she wasn't watching him. By accusing you, she made herself the victim instead of the negligent parent. She sacrificed me to save her reputation, Adanna said flatly. Yes, he met her eyes. And I will never forgive her for it. I've already spoken to my lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. My son will not be raised by a woman who would destroy an innocent girl to cover her own failures. Sir, you don't have to. I do, he interrupted firmly. My marriage is over. It's been over for years, truthfully. Zainab married me for money and status. I married her for, honestly, I don't remember anymore. Beauty, perhaps, social connections, but we built nothing real. And now I see her true character and I cannot accept it. I will not have my son learning that cruelty is acceptable. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is for you. It's not payment. There is no payment that could compensate for what you've endured, but it's a start. Consider it an apology and a thank you. Adanna opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a check. She stared at the amount, unable to process the zeros. 5 million naira. Sir, this is too much. I can't. It's not enough, he said firmly. You gave me back my son. You gave him his life. What price can be put on that? He leaned forward. But more than the money, I want to offer you something else. Your job as housemaid is obviously over. I won't ask you to return to that house. But I own several businesses. I want to offer you employment in any of them you choose, with proper pay, benefits, training. And if you want to continue your education, I'll sponsor that as well. Adanna's head was spinning. 24 hours ago, she'd been mopping floors. Now a billionaire was offering to change her entire life. I don't understand, she whispered. Why are you doing all this? Because you're the kind of person who jumps into a pool to save a drowning child without thinking about the consequences. Because you're the kind of person who performs CPR until your arms are shaking and your lungs are burning. Because when my son needed someone, you were there, and you didn't hesitate. His voice strengthened. The world needs more people like you, Miss Adanna, and I want to make sure that doing the right thing doesn't destroy you. A knock on the door interrupted them. Inspector Okoro opened it, and a junior officer whispered something to him. The inspector's expression hardened. Chief Okafor, your wife is here. She's demanding to see you and demanding that we rearrest Miss Adanna. She's caused quite a scene in the reception area. Chief Okafor stood, his jaw tight. I'll handle her. Adanna, please wait here. You don't need to see this. But Adanna stood too. No, sir. With respect, I do need to see this. She accused me. She had me arrested. She was willing to send me to prison for saving her son's life. I deserve to face her. Chief Okafor studied her for a moment, then nodded. You're right, come. They walked to the reception area together, Inspector Okoro following. The scene they found was exactly as chaotic as promised. Mrs. Okafor stood in the middle of the station, her expensive handbag clutched to her chest, her voice shrill. "This is unacceptable. I am the victim here. That girl tried to kill my son and you're just letting her walk free. I want her arrested. I want." She stopped when she saw her husband. "Emmanuel, thank God you're here. These incompetent police are letting that criminal go. Tell them what she did." "What she did," Chief Okafor said coldly, and his voice silenced the entire station, "was save our son's life while you were too busy on your phone to notice he was drowning." Mrs. Okafor's face went white. "What are you talking about? I was right there." "I watched the security footage, Zainab, all of it. I saw Emeka fall in the pool at 3:16 p.m. I saw Adanna rescue him at 3:17. And I saw you arrive at 3:41, 25 minutes later. You weren't watching him. You weren't anywhere near him. And when you finally showed up and saw that this young woman had saved him, you decided to destroy her rather than admit your negligence." "That's not, I was." Mrs. Okafor looked around wildly, seeing the judgment in every face. "She's poisoned you against me. She's a manipulative little." "Enough," Chief Okafor's voice cracked like a whip. "I've also seen the footage of your sister Kemi stealing your jewelry from the pool house. The theft you blamed on Adanna, your own sister committed it while our son was drowning. And you knew. You knew Adanna was innocent and you accused her anyway." Mrs. Okafor's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. "Inspector Okoro," Chief Okafor continued, "I want to file a formal complaint against my wife for false accusation, filing a false police report, and criminal defamation. I want it on record what she did." "No," Mrs. Okafor's voice rose to a shriek. "You can't do this to me. I'm your wife, the mother of your child." "You were willing to send an innocent girl to prison," Chief Okafor said, his voice heavy with disgust. "You were willing to destroy her life to save your reputation. What kind of mother does that? What kind of person?" He turned to Inspector Okoro. "I'm also filing for divorce. My lawyer will be in contact, and I want a restraining order. I don't want her near my son until the courts determine custody arrangements." "Emmanuel, please." Mrs. Okafor grabbed his arm. "Please, we can work this out. I made a mistake. I was upset. I wasn't thinking clearly." "You were thinking very clearly," he said, pulling his arm free. "You calculated exactly how to shift blame from yourself to someone powerless, someone you thought no one would believe or defend. You showed me who you really are, Zainab, and I cannot accept it." He turned to Adanna. "I'm truly sorry you had to witness this. Please go home, wherever home is for you now. My assistant will contact you tomorrow about the job opportunities. Take time to rest and recover from this nightmare." As Adanna left the police station, she heard Mrs. Okafor's voice behind her, now desperate and pleading. "This is her fault. She's destroying our family. Emmanuel, please." But Adanna didn't look back. She walked out into the Lagos sunlight, still wearing her stained housemaid uniform, still exhausted and traumatized, but free. Free, and somehow, impossibly, with a future ahead of her that looked nothing like the past she'd left behind. Will Mrs. Okafor face justice? What happens to Adanna now? Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. 6 months had passed since that terrible day by the pool, and Adanna barely recognized her own life anymore. She stood in front of the mirror in her small but comfortable apartment in Surulere, not a mansion, but clean, safe, and hers. The apartment Chief Okafor had arranged for her until she got on her feet. She wore a crisp white blouse and navy skirt, the uniform of Okafor Enterprises' administrative staff, where she now worked in the Human Resources Department. But today was special. Today, she wasn't going to the office. Today, she was going to court for the final hearing in the case of Mrs. Zainab Okafor. Her phone buzzed, a text from Chief Okafor. "The car is downstairs whenever you're ready. No pressure. Only come if you want to." Adanna took a deep breath and texted back, "I'll be right down." She wanted to be there, needed to be there. Not for revenge. She'd learned that revenge was a poison that hurt the one who carried it. But for closure. to see justice done, not just for herself, but for every poor person who'd ever been falsely accused because they had no power to defend themselves. The courthouse was already crowded when she arrived. News of the case had spread, not through Adanna's doing, but through gossip networks and then legitimate media. Billionaire's wife falsely accuses Orphan who saved her son, made for compelling headlines. Chief Okafor met her at the entrance, and beside him stood 6-year-old Chukwuemeka, dressed in his school uniform. The moment the boy saw Adanna, his face lit up. "Dana," he ran to her, and she caught him in a hug. In the past 6 months, Chief Okafor had made sure she could visit Emeka regularly. The trauma of that day had been hard on the child, nightmares about drowning, guilt that his rescue had gotten Adanna in trouble. But therapy and time were helping, and seeing Adanna safe and happy helped most of all. "Hello, little man," Adanna said, kissing the top of his head. "You ready for today?" "I get to tell the judge the truth," Emeka said seriously. "Daddy says the truth is the most important thing." "Your daddy is right." Inside the courtroom, Mrs. Zainab Okafor sat with her lawyer at the defendant's table. She looked diminished, thinner, her expensive clothes not quite as perfectly pressed, her makeup not quite hiding the dark circles under her eyes. When she saw Adanna enter, something flickered in her eyes. Shame, anger, fear. Adanna couldn't tell and found she didn't particularly care. The past 6 months had not been kind to Zainab Okafor. The divorce had been swift and brutal. Chief Okafor's lawyers had documented everything: the neglect, the false accusation, the pattern of prioritizing social status over her own son's well-being. She'd been awarded limited supervised visitation with Emeka, who'd made it clear he didn't want to see her. Her social circle had evaporated. Lagos society, which had once courted her favor, now whispered behind her back. Her friends had distanced themselves. Her family, embarrassed by her sister Kemi's arrest for theft and Zainab's own legal troubles, had publicly disowned her. She'd lost everything. And unlike Adanna, who'd built something new from nothing, Zainab had nothing to build with. No skills, no education she'd actually used, no identity beyond being a rich man's wife. The judge entered, and everyone stood. Justice Adami was a stern-faced woman in her 60s, known for being fair but harsh on those who abused power. "We're here today," Justice Adami began, "for the final hearing in the case of false criminal accusation and defamation against Mrs. Zainab Okafor. The defendant has already pleaded guilty to all charges. We're here to determine sentencing and restitution." Zainab's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client deeply regrets her actions. She was under extreme stress, had just witnessed her son's near-death experience and made a terrible mistake in judgment. She's already lost her marriage, her home, her social standing. We ask for leniency." "A mistake in judgment," Justice Adami interrupted, "would be accusing someone in the heat of the moment and then recanting when calmer heads prevailed. Your client maintained her false accusation even after seeing evidence that Miss Obi had saved her son. She insisted on pressing charges. She attempted to have Miss Obi imprisoned. This wasn't a mistake. This was calculated cruelty." She looked at Zainab. "Stand up." Zainab stood, trembling. "You used your wealth and position to try to destroy an innocent young woman. You were willing to send her to prison to cover your own negligence. Do you understand the severity of what you did?" "Yes, Your Honor," Zainab whispered. "I don't think you do. Let me explain it to you." Justice Adami's voice was cold. "Miss Obi is an orphan. She had no family, no money, no lawyer, no voice. In your world, she was nobody, and you counted on that. You counted on no one believing her, no one investigating, no one caring what happened to a poor housemaid. You were very nearly right. If not for one honest police inspector who insisted on checking the evidence, your lie would have succeeded." Tears ran down Zainab's face, but the judge wasn't finished. "You need to understand that the justice system failed Miss Obi the moment she was arrested without proper investigation. It failed her when officers took your word over hers simply because you were wealthy. The only reason we're here today, the only reason she isn't in prison right now, is because one man chose to do his job properly. That should terrify all of us." She looked at Adanna. "Miss Obi, would you like to address the court?" Adanna stood, her heart pounding. She'd prepared something to say, but now, looking at Zainab's broken figure, different words came. 6 months ago, I jumped into a pool to save a drowning child without thinking about the consequences. I would do it again. I would do it 1,000 times over, because saving a life is worth any cost to myself. She paused. But I shouldn't have had to pay the cost Mrs. Okafor demanded. I shouldn't have been arrested for heroism. I shouldn't have spent a night in jail for doing the right thing. She looked directly at Zainab. I don't know if you understand what you took from me. Not just my freedom that night, but my sense of safety in the world. You taught me that doing good can be punished, that saving a life can destroy your own, that power and money matter more than truth. Those are terrible lessons, Mrs. Okafor. Zainab was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. But I've learned other lessons too, Adanna continued, her voice stronger. I learned that some people will stand up for truth even when it's inconvenient. I learned that justice, while slow, can still arrive. I learned that my life has value, even though I'm an orphan with no family name or wealth. And I learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew. She sat down. Chief Okafor squeezed her hand. Justice Adami nodded. Well said, Miss Obi. Now, as to sentencing. She looked at Zainab. You've pleaded guilty to filing a false police report, criminal defamation, and false accusation. These are serious crimes that undermine public trust in our justice system. However, I'm not going to send you to prison. Zainab's lawyer looked relieved, but the judge wasn't finished. Instead, you will serve 2 years of community service, specifically, working at an orphanage. You will spend 20 hours per week caring for the children no one else wants. You will learn what it means to be powerless and vulnerable. You will pay restitution to Miss Obi in the amount of 10 million naira for damages, emotional distress, and defamation. Zainab gasped at the amount. Additionally, you will issue a public apology in 3 national newspapers, stating clearly what you did and accepting full responsibility. And you will be permanently barred from filing any future legal action against Miss Obi. If you violate any of these terms, you will serve the maximum prison sentence. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Zainab whispered. Then we're adjourned. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, but Chief Okafor's security kept them at bay. Adanna, Chief Okafor, and Emeka climbed into the waiting car. It's over, Adanna said, and she felt something release in her chest. It's really over. Not quite, Chief Okafor said with a small smile. There's one more thing. He handed her an envelope. Inside was an acceptance letter to the University of Lagos, full scholarship for nursing studies, and a note in Chief Okafor's handwriting. Dr. Chinwe says you have the instincts of a healer. Let's give you the education to match, if you want it. I want it, Adanna said, tears streaming down her face. Oh, I want it so much. Emeka climbed into her lap. Dana, will you still visit me when you're a doctor? Every single week, she promised, holding him close. I'll always have time for you, little man. 3 years later, Adanna stood in a hospital emergency room wearing scrubs with her name badge. Adanna Obi, nursing student. She'd just finished helping a doctor save a child who'd come in with respiratory distress. As the child breathed easier and the parents cried with relief, Adanna felt the same sense of purpose she'd felt that day by the pool. This was what she was meant to do: save lives, help people make a difference. Her phone buzzed. A text from Emeka, now 9 years old. Dad says you're coming for dinner Sunday. Can we make that pasta you taught me? She texted back, absolutely, see you Sunday, little man. She'd heard through the gossip network that Zainab Okafor had completed her community service at the orphanage. Some said it had changed her, made her humbler. Others said she was just going through the motions. Adanna didn't know and didn't particularly care. Zainab's journey was her own. Adanna's journey had taken her from orphan to housemaid to falsely accused criminal to nursing student. She'd been knocked down and gotten back up. She'd been betrayed and found allies. She'd lost everything and built something better. And every time she saved a life in that hospital, every time she helped someone in their darkest moment, she remembered that day by the pool. Remembered the choice to jump in even though the water was deep. Remembered that doing the right thing always mattered, even when it cost you. Especially when it cost you. Because that's what heroes did. They jumped in. They saved lives, they paid the price. And they got up the next day and did it all over again. What did you think of Adanna's journey? Was justice served? Share your thoughts below. If this story inspired you, smash that like button, subscribe to Stories by Ajibs, and share this message. Where are you watching from? Comment below. Remember, doing the right thing always matters, even when it's hard. Truth always wins in the end. God bless.